let's talk about the oldest books on my TBR. Hey guys, over the course of the next few videos, I am going to be talking about my physical TBR. Why am I going to be talking about my physical TBR? As you guys know, we have spent the year doing the Ultimate Unhaul project. Now, I have actually let some things interfere with that, readathons being the thing that has interfered with that. I joined a lot more than I planned to. There were 4 of them, but I don't feel like any of them really stressed me out. So we'll get into something that happened last week in a different video, but I am so very excited to talk about the physical books on my TBR because I have done a TBR cart reset. You guys saw that. I have reevaluated some of the books that I needed to for clearing out some shelf space and getting the books off my floor. Some are back in my floor. Let me just say that because I have created stacks for myself to go through when the time comes. And like I said, I'll address all of this in a different video. But today we are going to be talking about the oldest books on my TBR that I still really want to read, just haven't gotten around to. Now, I had intended to go through this stack from oldest to newest. However, I stacked them up in a way where I'm going to have to be the most recently added oldest book on my TBR to the actual oldest, which might be kind of fun, but that's neither here nor there. Now, this first one, I don't have it to hold up because I can't remember where I put them. And I kind of went through all my shelves and I must have put them somewhere where I wouldn't see them because they're mass market paperbacks, and I really hate mass market paperbacks. And the spines are broken and all that stuff too. But I really want to start the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearn. I've really enjoyed everything I've read by Kevin Hearn, and I have read his Plague of Giants. The first 2, I need to go back and reread those because the 3rd one will be coming out soon. And then I read Ink and Sigil, and Ink and Sigil is actually a spin-off of the Iron Druid series, which I didn't know that when I read it. But I definitely want to pick up this first book and read the series. It's kind of a series that I want to tackle next year. I don't know how much I will enjoy it because quite often it gets compared to Dresden, and I don't like Dresden. So we'll see. We'll see. I did like Ink and Sigil though, so I do have some pretty high hopes for it. Next, again, I don't have this book to hold up physically because it's in a pile and I really didn't want to dig it out. And I can see it. It's sitting right in front of me. But there's a huge stack in my floor of books that I need to really consider if I want to keep them. It's over there, but it's over there because I have NF'd it. Not because I really don't know if I want to keep it or not, but I've actually NF'd that book once, and so it's kind of just in my pile of shame. I did start this book. It was recommended to me by Zach Argyle, and he said that I would like it because I like how different Draconis Memoria is, and The Emperor's Blades is one of those that is another very different type of series. And you know, I learned in my recent readathon that is a bird on the front of that cover, which I will post here so that you guys can see it. I really want to get into Brian Staveley's works and see if he is the author for me. I don't know. I have a feeling that I will really like his stuff because I like Anthony Ryan. And again, the comparisons are often made, Anthony Ryan and Brian Staveley. I just haven't read anything of his yet. I lie. I read 100 pages of that book, but my brain was in such a bad place. Like I was in a really bad mental place when I started that, and nothing stuck. So even though I've read 100 pages of it, I might as well have not done so. Okay, and then we have The Thousand Names by Django Wexler. If you guys can see behind me, you will see that Django Wexler is on my favorites shelf. Why haven't I read this one yet? Well, this is Flintlock Fantasy. I have never really read a Flintlock Fantasy, which we can talk about another book that's on my TBR, and that has made so many TBR lists of mine, Promise of Blood. I think I will like this. I love Django Wexler's writing. That is something that I know. But if I am not mistaken, this is Django Wexler's debut. So I know that the series I love is likely better writing. And I haven't really read any Flintlock fantasy except for Mistborn Era 2, which I don't enjoy. And it's not because of the Flintlock though, it's because of the characters. And so I haven't picked this one up mainly because I was reading his newest series and I don't really like reading the same author at the same time that I'm reading their other series because I get confused. And mainly because my brain registers writing style. So if I was reading this alongside that, I would combine the two because the writing style would likely be the same. But I really want to get into the shadow campaigns. I have heard from multiple people that these books are either hit or miss, but the series as a whole is like a 4-star series for most people who read it. So I'm still excited to delve into it and see what I think. That is also currently on my TBR cart. All right, we have Karen Miller's Kingmaker Kingbreaker. Lord, I've heard some awful things about this since I started talking about wanting to read it. So from what I understand, and I don't know if it's Godspeaker or this one, but we have a very young character who goes through some stuff. I don't know. Is it this one or is it, because this says being a fisherman like his father isn't a bad life, but it's not one that Asher wants. Despite his humble roots, Asher has grand dreams and they call him to Dorana, home of the princes, beggars, and the warrior mages who have protected the kingdom for generations. Little does Asher know, however, that his arrival in the city is being closely watched. So I don't know if it was this one or if it was Godspeaker. I have a feeling it was probably Godspeaker that they were talking about. But this is the Innocent Mage and the Awakened Mage. I've just heard really bad things about Karen Miller ever since I said I wanted to read her. Now, I've also heard there's a lot of people who really love both Kingmaker, Kingbreaker, and Godspeaker. I have the omnibus editions of both of them. I'm going to still try it. One, it's Orbit, and I'm an Orbit fangirly. And I just don't... The person, though, that told me about things that I wouldn't like about these books were, like, I trust their opinion. So that's why I haven't read it yet. Because people keep saying opposing things to me, and so I don't know what to think or what expectations to go into these books with. So there's that. All right, my David Dlish obsession. I have told you guys I've bought every David Dlish book there is and have read one. I love the synopses of his books, though. The underworld rules the city of Valdarin. Thieves, smugglers, assassins, they fear only one man. Theron Fellhorn is the greatest assassin of his time. All the thieves' guilds in the city are under his unflinching control. If he has his way, death will soon spill out from the shadows and into the streets. Assassins, thieves, ugh. I need this in my life. I think that about every single David Dlish book that I pick up, though. I buy it and then I don't read it, and I can't tell you why. I have no idea why, but I own every single one of them. I'm looking at the Soulkeeper trilogy. I have Skyborn and the rest of those over there. Like, I can see them. I have this series. Actually, I think I only have the first 3 of this series, so maybe I can give myself a little bit of a break. But I still own the first 3 of the series and haven't read it. And of course, it's Orbit, so... and he publishes under Orbit, so that's probably another reason I cannot resist his books. I do want to get to this next year, though. I have been putting this off again because I started a different series, and that would be, The Bladed Faith. I do have the Sapphire Altar. I do plan to read it. I know the next book's coming, and I got to get on that, but I got it as an ARC too, which makes me really sad. Like, I should have read it by now, but I kind of failed. We'll get into that later. But yeah, I have the first 3 of this series. I believe it's 7, maybe 6. It's only showing the first 3 down here, so I'm not really sure. Anyway, I liked The Bladed Faith. I think I had an issue with the female narrator because I got an audio arc of it. And since I had an issue with the female narrator, it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for that particular audiobook. But I still like the story, so I will continue with that series and then possibly pick this up next year. That's probably where I'm going to be headed with this one. Or maybe start it in the next couple months and then continue it on. All right, throwback to one of my former favorite genres that I don't seem to be reaching for very much anymore, and that is historical fiction and Nefertiti by Michelle Moran. Now, this is one that many people, like, recommended to me back in the day. And I'm going to say this is probably, I'm going to look and see how old this book is, because I remember this book coming out. Yeah, 2008. So way before my booktube adventure. I was reading a lot of historical fiction. I still tend to read a lot of historical fiction, or up until the last 3 years. Let's just say that. Like, this has been a love of mine for a very long time. And so I love stories about Egypt, and I needed to know. I needed to read this. I'm also a big fan of The Mummy, and so Nefertiti, if you guys have watched the series of The Mummy, then you'll know that she plays a role. And like, this is just a region I really love reading about. So very excited for this one, even though I keep forgetting it exists, because yes, 2008. She ain't yellow yet, though. She's held up well, and she's held up well through a couple moves with only this ding to show for it. So hopefully I will have read it by the time we move again. Okay, so when I first started blogging, this was a book that everybody was recommending to me, and I started it and I liked it, and then I just never finished it. The bookmark is no longer in there, but for a while it was. And I think it was my friend Peter who told me about this and was like, you need to read this. And it's Medallion by Jennifer Fallon. Look at that classic fantasy cover. Let me see. Oh, there we go. No more glare. I love this cover. And Dragon Riders, we have a Dragon Rider. I know you guys see him. I'm so excited. This is Hythorn Chronicles book 1, but I never remember that it exists. Like, these are books like I need to have shoved in my face to remember that they exist. And that's why I'm making this video, so that I remember that they are there, but they have been there for so long that I'm just like, oh, it's out of sight, out of mind now. But yeah, look at the, okay. And so my friend Peter was the one who tried to get me to read this one a long time ago. According to legend, the last king of Harshini sired a half-human child known as the Demon Child, born to destroy a god. Okay, yes. Why haven't I read this yet? Why? And it's kind of short for a fantasy book. So, I mean, what's not to love? Why haven't I picked it up? I don't know. I can't tell you. Okay, and another throwback to one of my favorite authors of the past, Jean Colligridis, author of The Borgia Bride. This is a very reflective cover. This is a novel of Renaissance Spain. I don't know if she is considering this a companion to one of her other books, but she does have a tendency to write in that sort of thing. Like The Borgia Bride, I, Mona Lisa, The Devil's Queen, The Scarlet Contessa. This one has been on my list for so long because of the author. Now it says, a tale of love, loss, and treachery set during the perilous days of the Spanish Inquisition. The Inquisition makes its first appearance in Spain. Its target, conversos, Christian of Jewish descent, specifically those who practice Judaism secretly in their homes. The penalty for crypto-Judaism, burning at the stake. So maybe not the greatest book to read right now, especially with what's going on in the world. But I have really liked Jean Colligridis for the fact that she doesn't hold back with how dark the world can actually be. And so, like I said, probably not the best book to be reading right now, but I do really love the way she explores these really deep topics and doesn't hold back, like I said. But I have 2 more of hers to read. The Orphan something, and that's going to come up later in another video. The Orphan of Florence, and I'll post an image, but that's going to come up in another video of mine in the near future. And then, so one of the things, especially with Jean Colligridis, and like I said, she really does a lot to explore like the darkness of humanity. This actually has talking points in the back. So I really like that in a lot of her books, that she will explore what she wrote with other people. And this actually has her like an interview type thing in the back, but discussing the Spanish Inquisition and stuff like that. So very intrigued still. Like I said, probably not the best time to be reading something like this, but still on my radar. Okay, we are to the second oldest book on my TBR, and this one is a bit yellow. She's showing her age. Oh my goodness, hang on. There's like an Easter weekend thing in here. I have no idea where that came from, but cool, cool, cool. I don't know how long ago I put this on the TBR, but let's see. If that one was 2008. Oh, this is 2010. I don't think that was the original publication date of the book, though. Like, this must have been a reprint or something like that, because I know this one went on the TBR before The Inquisitor's Wife did. But anyway, this is another historical fiction novel of the Renaissance. You guys can kind of tell where my historical fiction interests lie. And it says, before the Tudors, there were the Borgias, more passionate, more dangerous, more deadly. Having just told you, Jean Collegris wrote The Borgia Bride. And if I remember correctly, this is Lucretia Borgia. Oh, wait. No. Okay. So I have it backwards. This is, she becomes the position of the poisoner serving under Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia, and she becomes the confidant of Lucretia Borgia. So she gets to navigate a web of treachery and deceit. Francesca pursues her father's killer from the depths of Rome's Jewish ghetto into the heights of the Vatican itself. So yeah, I'm still very, very interested in this one. And I need more Renaissance in my life and Egyptian stuff in my life, I guess. So the oldest books on my TBR do happen to be some of the historical fiction that I have failed to read lately. And then I have Stephen R. Lawhead's The Paradise War. Now, if you guys have been around for any amount of time, you will know. I am sorry, my stomach is grumbling. If you guys can hear that, I'm a little hungry. But The Paradise War, if you guys have been around, you'll know Hood is one of my favorite series of all time. And I love the historical fantasy aspect of it. I love historical fantasy. I don't read a ton of it now, but there was a time when I did read quite a bit. This says, in a style reminiscent of Tolkien, Lawhead presents a world of vivid imagery. This book is a delight. From the dreaming spires of Oxford, Lewis Giles drives north to seek a mythical creature in a misty glen in Scotland. Expecting little more than a weekend diversion, Lewis finds himself in a mystical place where two worlds meet in the times in between. And in the heart of a battle between good and evil, the ancient Celts admitted no separation between this world and the other world, and the two were delicately interwoven, each dependent on the other. The Paradise War crosses the thin places between this world and that, as Lewis Giles comes face to face with an ancient mystery and cosmic catastrophe in the making. So it still sounds really good to me. And I said something when I was reading Mike Molman's, what is the name of that book? Something about druids. I will insert the picture here. That there's not enough Celtic fiction anymore. And so I've really been dying to go to this one, especially since reading Mike Molman's series, because I really love Celtic folklore. And then there's another one by Shauna Lawless. It's a very long title. Something about fighting men. Anyway, I really want to get back into reading some more Celtic fiction and enjoying the heck out of myself. And I liked Outlander too, by the way. I only read the first book. I only watched the first season of the show, but I really enjoyed it. It's just one of those things that those books are gigantic. That series is hard to watch. So I kind of fizzle out in my interest of both of them. Just because I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's hard to watch and it's hard to read. So, and hard to read because the books are so long, not because I have issues reading stuff like that. I actually have a lot of books that have that kind of stuff in them. But those are the oldest books on my TBR that I really, really want to get to. Obviously, they are the physical books that I own. And I need to add them. Maybe I'll choose a few of these to add to the 24 books I want to read in 2024. Obviously, The Thousand Names has been tossed on TBRs left and right, and I have failed to read it thus far, but it can happen, guys. It can happen. All right, that is it for me today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things. I'll see you guys in my next video. Also, I am now a Pango ambassador, so if you would like $5 off of your first Pango purchase, just check my description box down below for my code.